All right, here we go. We're getting ready to, and we're doing things just a little bit different. All right, all of you business pros. Before we jump into the show, a quick reminder to please subscribe on whichever platform it is that you're listening to us on. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, and drop a review, and help all the other like-minded business owners find value from our guests as we rise up in those podcast rankings. We will sincerely appreciate it. We are so excited and honored to bring another incredible guest to the Business Bros Pod. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait to introduce this guest. Our guest today has a deep love for humanity and helping others. She's a 10-year media veteran specializing in broadcast media and content marketing. And trust me when I say she knows content. As if her tagline, "Cut me and I bleed content," didn't tell us enough about her passion for content creation, let's talk about her accolades. In the second most populous country in the world, over 1.3 billion people live in India, our guest made the list for top 100 content writers in India. But she didn't just barely make the list. She's in the top 10. So if you want to create a connection with someone who can help your business tell its story and engage with your customers, you will want to tune in today. Joining us today from across the globe in Maharashtra, India, a huge welcome to one of the best content creators on the planet. Welcome to the show, Punita Parekh.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros. And we're ready to do this today. Punita, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Hernan. Thanks so much, James. You guys are crazy.
We have fun. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's all about having fun. So tell me a little bit about yourself. James dropped the super fire intro, but I want to know some of what's going on in your day-to-day. What's the day like from across the globe?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a short snap about my journey. I started my journey way back in 2004 in Mumbai, India, from a company called CNBC. It's a business news channel. I spent about 8-9 years there doing content marketing, worked with different brands across the globe there, giving content marketing solutions. Then I moved on to another company in Mumbai itself called the Times of India. Like how you guys have the Financial Times there, we have the Times of India here. So I spent about 7-8 years there as well, doing content marketing there. And now in August 2020 is when I finally decided that I want to get to be an accidental entrepreneur. So now I am a content marketer and giving solutions to small businesses across the globe.
Content creation is huge. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing here. We love to create content on a regular basis. We give our guests the opportunity to come on the show. We help them create content. We give them, GIF files. We give them media files. We give them show clips. We give them all kinds of branded content because content is king. That's what the world sees now. We consume content like 15 seconds at a time. Can you tell me a little bit about why a story is important when building content?
So being a storyteller is definitely needs to have a flow in the conversation. So why does it need to be a storyteller? Like how can storytelling rather boost brand value? So authenticity, like you have to be real. It has to give you a sense of comfort. It has to make people feel in terms of who you are, because your tribe will find you and they will stick with you because you've given them a piece of your history. So being authentic, being real is so important. Moving on in terms of individuality, because nobody shares the exact story, right? So there is no better way to make your business stand out from the crowd than storytelling. And storytelling can totally win because it becomes so naturally when a person speaks, because your journey makes you unique, and it makes your business specifically prepared to serve your tribe, because your tribe actually knows you for who you are. So like it's you're speaking with your niche. And most importantly, connection, because when you're like selling a product or you're selling yourself, you're so much more than the product, right, James? Because you're selling the story behind why you decided to create it. What are you doing it for? People are not buying into you, people are buying into how you are kind of selling a product. It's more about believing and having a connection between you and your tribe. And lastly, most importantly, trust. Trust is the bottom line. If people don't
Mhm.
trust you or your product, then nobody's going to buy what you're selling. So by incorporating a story, you kind of humanize your brand, and that's going to build you trust, because every person in this damn planet has a story, every business has a story. And hence it's so important for people to be fearless and just share your story. That's the key.
Well,
Give
let's.
it a 10. A 10.
That's absolutely true. Let's wonder. I wonder because what you said there was super powerful. The fact that everybody has a story, but the other side of it is the vulnerability factor. We're afraid to come out and talk about what makes us human. We're afraid to make a mistake. A lot of people are afraid to go on live because they're going to fumble their words, they're going to stutter, or they have an accent, or whatever the situation is. They don't like the way they look. Whatever the situation is, they're not freeing themselves up enough to talk about themselves personality wise. So they focus 100% on their product or service, and they don't understand why nobody's connecting with them. They don't understand why people aren't buying their product or service. They don't understand why their audience isn't growing. What kind of, when it comes to that vulnerability, what kind of things should we and shouldn't we share in our stories?
Very true what you said, because most people say that the hardest part of telling a story is knowing how and where to begin. That's because most storytellers or most people kind of start in the wrong place with the wrong question at the how to. Because how to do it, it's no big deal. But instead of wondering what we should say, we need to kind of start our storytelling by asking the audiences, who's the story for? So I would kind of ask a few steps to myself before kind of telling a brand story. So I would start with, who's the story for? Why are you telling it? What is the message behind it? How should we tell it? Where will we share it? Because these who's, why's, what's, where, once you get these answers, it kind of gives you a framework in your mind, and then it kind of becomes very easy for you to kind of implement it. And hence, questioning yourself is very, very important.
I like that. Figuring out who. James and I have been talking about the who in our insurance agency for a while now. We're really focusing our attention on who our target audience is, and then figuring out what our value ladder is and what the emotion that each person is going through as they ascend through our value ladder. Because understanding, like you said, understanding what your audience is going through, what aspects they're struggling with, what questions they have during that particular situation, those are the questions that we want to answer, but not just as an answer. We want to be able to answer them in a story mode. And I've been reading a lot of Russell Brunson's .com secrets for sales, right? And he talks about in that book, he says, one of the greatest storytellers of all time was Jesus Christ. He would walk around and tell everything he did in parables, and the reason why he was so effective was because people connect with stories more than they do with facts, right? You can tell me something is hot, but if you tell me a story about the time you got burned, that's going to sink into my mind a lot more than the fact that that thing is hot. So when you're working with individuals and you're trying to pull their stories out, what types of questions are you asking them to get that information out?
Yeah, exactly. Like before you kind of share your story, it's so important to ask yourself in terms of, what am I going to share with the audience? What is it that the audience will say, oh my God, that's what I want to listen to? So asking yourself before understanding what your audience want is kind of important.
Mm-hmm. Understanding what yeah, well, and that's the other side of it is I think we build businesses for us first. We start thinking about what we want in our business, right? I want to make a lot of money. I want to drive a fancy car. I want a nice house. And so you develop a product that you yourself think is awesome, failing to think about, well, who's actually going to buy this product? What is
Exactly.
it that they're looking for? I mean, those are the questions that you need to be asking yourself in order to develop stuff. So what opinions do you have about this story implementation tool that you've been working on?
I want to mainly talk about the SMEs, which are the small, medium enterprise businesses, because India as a market has quite a few of them, and everybody wants to become entrepreneurs, and everyone wants to become accidental entrepreneurs. I'll put it that way. So obviously, stories are something we're always surrounded by, right? No matter where we are in this world, who you're traveling with, what you're doing, who you meet, you will always find stories to listen to. So every single brand, and I completely believe in this, you can be a smallest brand, you can be the biggest brand. Every single brand has a story to share. And here, it is very important for your customer to kind of know your small businesses, but you need to kind of follow a few tips rather if you're a small business in terms of asking yourself before you kind of go out in the market and talk about your product in terms of why does your product make a difference to your customer, because you're not selling a product to yourself, as you said, right? It's not about you, it's always about them. Like, what is it that I'm giving to the customer? Why do you want your brand values matter to your audience? Because once you kind of answer these questions, you'll soon begin to kind of unravel answers within yourself, and hence it's always kind of important to ask the whys to your questions, because starting with telling your brand stories in a very fluent manner, they can be very memorable and meaningful, because kind of audience.
That's what happens when we go across the globe. Sometimes we get satellite delays.
Exactly. So hence having an emotion, being authentic, being memorable, that's important.
So we got a comment from the audience. Jeff, one of our loyal four fans, he says, "Look at Donald Trump, for example. He tells stories that don't even make sense, but people buy it all the time." And
I don't think it means what you think it means.
I don't think that's what he thinks it means. But this is the funny thing about him is love him or hate him, he controls the narrative all the time. Right in our country, we're about to go into election, and the story is always on him. It's one of the main reasons why he won the election the first time. No matter what, whether it was a debate, there was a story about what he was saying. Whether it was outside tweets, there was a story about what he was saying. He understands the power of story, and he uses it in his favor. And like it or not, you're paying attention to him. The people who like him are paying attention to him. The people who don't like him are also paying attention to him. So he wins with the power of story. What advice would you give when you're talking to a company? When I'm telling a story, should I be making a story kind of like the president does over here and do story that just drums up emotion and grabs attention? Or should I be tugging at heartstrings and pulling emotion in that kind of sinks in a different way? What's probably the most effective way to tell
So
story?
exactly. So I completely believe you need to have your facts about what your brand is about, but kind of bringing an emotional attachment or an emotional moment kind of makes your story inspiring, because people are always wired for stories. If you give me some boring facts, I'm not going to listen to it, right? But if you tell it to me in a beautiful manner in terms of monetizing the moments, that's when I'm going to remember it. That's what Trump does. Even our own Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, when he's telling a story, he kind of brings his whole childhood in place and how he became a Prime Minister. So he's kind of evoking emotions. That's the key.
And that is the key. That is absolutely the key. And here's the other thing that I've learned, especially if you're trying to build an audience and you're trying to grow your business through story, you're going to get tired of telling your story way quicker than people are going to hear your story. Your audience is going to connect at different parts of your stories with different times. So having multiple stories to go by, and James and I were having this discussion actually right before this show. We're talking about the different stories that can kind of play into our character that we're developing as, professional business people or professional insurance agency. There's a story that people are going to connect with. Sometimes they're going to connect with the day we went broke and our very first business failed. There's some of them are going to connect with James wearing his heart on his sleeve and his girlfriend breaking his heart and how that drove him into joining the military. Everybody has stories. And I think, the framework that you use in a story and driving it back to what you're doing in your business, I think that's where people get that disconnect. I think we all have stories, but how do I use the story and push it back into my business?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the one important point is many people have a fear about a failure. So actually, when you speak about your failure stories, that's when people are going to resonate with you because everyone fails. All of us fail in our lives. But kind of people go out there and talking about them, that's when people resonate. So how do you kind of apply to your brand? You need to kind of make your brand feel very comfortable and very easygoing where the people resonate to you. Have a moment which kind of makes the audience feel that yes, I want to listen to your story because you're evoking emotions, because you're evoking authenticity, because you're evoking real life incidents. Once all these happen, your audience will kind of believe you and trust you and obviously go forward and buy your brand.
So when we're talking about stories, do they always have to be my stories, or can I use what's going on in the world and what's going on in society or whatever? Can I use that sort of stuff to kind of bring stories together, or do they always have to be about us as individuals?
Yeah, like I'll give you a very simple example of this brand called Cleveland Clinic. It's a brand in America. It's a clinic. So what Cleveland Clinic did is they always believed in the process of serving their patients. So they kind of made a campaign where they created moments of people like you and me, like a mom just delivering, or a 19-year-old child just had an accident and just going to the hospital. So these moments kind of evoked the audience. And most importantly, Cleveland Clinic kept in mind about the issues that these people are going. The Cleveland Clinic put themselves in their shoes and they imagine that how does it feel to be a mom? How does it feel to have an accident? How does it feel to be in pain? Once Cleveland Clinic kind of put that in their brand story, boy, all the patients out there kind of trusted Cleveland Clinic, and that's the most important thing, right? Putting yourself in their shoes.
All right, Jeff has a question for you. He says, some people say that bad press is better than no press. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. In fact, in India, just 2 days back, we had a brand called Titan where they were kind of talking about the intercaste marriage of Hindu and Muslim. And boy, it was so controversial that Titan as a brand, a watch brand, had to keep the ad off. But can you believe it? Because they were having bad controversy, the ad not only was trending, but also they made sales. So I totally believe in that at some point in time.
Speaking of stories, I'll tell another one. So I teach high school in the morning, and when we
Oh,
went into this whole distant learning thing where COVID hit and everybody had to stay home, we were automatically going to go into this program that now everybody knows called Zoom, and Zoom was the go-to virtual meeting place. And then Zoom got all kinds of bad press because people were breaking into rooms and doing things that they weren't supposed to. So a lot of the school districts decided, nope, Zoom is not going to be the one that we're going to use. We're going to utilize another program. So it was Google Teams or Microsoft Teams or whatever it was that we're going to use. And so Zoom got a lot of flack for that. They got hosed in the market for a couple days there, but they're still the number one right now. All that bad press about things that were going bad with their software, they have since fixed, they have since implemented, and more people. As a matter of fact, when people talk about doing a video call, they don't even say video call. If the verb is now, are you going to do a Zoom with me? Are you going to get on a Zoom? And that's
exactly.
And to me, that's the power of bad press or good press. Press is press. They're out
Press is
there, and
press.
now
It
we're
doesn't matter. It
zooming.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tell me.
It's all about what people have in their minds.
Yeah. So tell me what. Speaking of what you have in your mind, what are you doing to help the public right now? Tell me about your business.
Yeah, so I'll just give you my purpose to life first. My main purpose to life here, why am I here, is kind of exchange positive energy and kind of help humans and kind of help people with whatever they do in life. So what I want to focus on for the next few years is kind of help the smallest and the smallest of brands kind of grow their business with the help of content marketing, because I truly madly believe content marketing is king. In fact, the new style of content marketing is podcasting. So podcasting comes there as well. So I completely believe in helping small medium enterprise businesses grow their business through content marketing. So that's my goal right now for the next few years,
Well,
hopefully.
well, let me ask you, since you have a lot of history in broadcasting, we started doing this podcast in 2018, and at first we
So
started with 2018. Yeah, we're going on 3 years almost next July, and we started off with just audio. Then we added video, and now we're at a point where we're completely fully branded. And what I did, and I want you to help me and kind of walk me through, tell me if this is a good idea or not. What I did was I looked at something that was already successful. So I looked at TV programs, the sitcoms that we normally, when I was growing up, would sit down as a family and watch, things like Friends or, Third Rock from the Sun or whatever it is. I looked at the sitcoms and I realized, okay, look, all of them have a nice little hook at the beginning that kind of attracts the attention. Then they have their own video intro or audio that kind of plays in so that you get used to hearing that over and over again. That's how the tracks and those songs become next big hits. Then they have all kinds of different camera angles that change all the time to capture attention so that you're never leaving the screen. Then they also have commercials embedded in, of course, the outro at the end. All we did was model what was already successful in TV land. And we figured, you know what, if we can do something very similar here in the podcast space, we'll have success with that too, because I already know that it's tested and it works. What else can we do in our show to kind of help elevate what we're doing?
yeah, so as you mentioned about the branding part, which is great, but I also truly believe, which you're already doing anyways, bringing human stories, like kind of bringing failure stories here. People always talk about the successes, right? In terms of I'm doing this, I'm doing that, who am I? But kind of bringing failure stories and then inspiring people and educating people about why they failed and now where they are would kind of also make a huge difference to business bros as a brand, because branding is one place, but also bringing the right people, which you guys are doing it extremely well. But failure stories kind of resonate to people, and that's the key.
I like that, actually. It's funny because there are certain things that are part of the podcast that if you're not a guest and you haven't been a guest on the show, you don't understand. Things like when you register to be a guest, the emails that you get, the content that we give you, to promote ahead of time. And one of the things is when you're actually signing up, I can ask specific questions. So we have a question embedded in there, but I think I'm going to change it to what you just said right now, because that's powerful. If I know my guest's biggest failure, that could be the headline hook that grabs people's attention. And then when we talk about that exact failure at the beginning of the show, people are going to be like, ooh, I want to tune in to hear what happened at that story.
Exactly. That's the key.
That's great insight. I mean, that I've only known you for like 20 minutes and you're already shaping the way we're doing the show. That's impressive. So tell me about your company. How do people get a hold of you, and what do you offer them?
As I said, I offer content marketing solutions, and the best way to get in touch with me is LinkedIn. That's my new place.
That's the home, right?
That's the home now.
Why LinkedIn over Instagram, over Facebook, over Twitter?
I don't know why. I've been on Instagram, I've been on Facebook since 2012 when it started, but somehow LinkedIn gives me the professionalism as well as a friendliness. And it gives me authenticity. It gives me real people. And that's what I totally feel and I connect with. I get an ROI once I speak to a person on LinkedIn. So I completely feel LinkedIn, and with LinkedIn stories starting, oh, I think that's the next game thing. As Gary Vee says, right? LinkedIn is a 2012 of Facebook.
It is. It is. It's following suit. James actually did some metric counting earlier. We were on the
Oh,
Insurance Bro show, and he was talking about how many people did you say were on Facebook compared to LinkedIn?
2.7 billion on Facebook compared to 545 million on LinkedIn.
So it's coming. It's creeping up. It's getting up there. I don't think people understand the what LinkedIn actually is and how it's progressing. What kind of hiccups have you had working in LinkedIn and working on the other side of the globe? I know, for example, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. When I get DMs and they're coming from the other side of the world, I feel like I'm getting sold like robots that are going to try to sell me on followers and try to get that sort of stuff. And instantly I already get a negative vibe. What is it like on your side trying to build a business from the other side of the world?
okay. So I've done it in a very different way. I've kind of gone there on my LinkedIn being a content marketer. I've kind of gone there and educated my audience about the ABCD of content marketing. So I kind of give case studies, speak about the successful stories of content marketing. So once I kind of start speaking about them, people think, yes, Punita is the real thing. So
Mhm.
I get normal messages and decent messages. But then there's another part of my life where I speak about my failure stories, about how I was as a student. Yes, I didn't do well in school, but today, yes, I'm a hustler. But when I start speaking about that, that's when people get a little personal. Oh, what are you doing? So that's the key, because you talk about personal stuff, people kind of not very good. But when you talk about the professional part, that's when people feel, good. But
There's
the worst part is the cryptocurrency people. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's the guys who make us crazy. I don't know why, and they're always from the opposite side of the globe, not from here for some reason.
It's that whole thought of that instant success, right? Like I just started my Instagram today and I can get you 50,000 followers tomorrow. Like that it sounds so sexy. It sounds so attractive to say, okay, cool. I'm going to have all kinds of followers. I'm going to have all kinds of people looking at my stuff, but it's not realistic. The people who actually engage with you come because they've connected with you on some level, which means you got to put in some work. You got to actually create the content ahead of time. You got to have some sort of stories that build up who you are and why people should even be listening to you in the first place. And then once people connect with you, they'll begin to grow your following and they'll begin to connect with you on a long-term basis. And it's not the easiest process in the world, but slowly it's like a snowball, right? It starts off really slow and then all of a sudden it gains momentum and then you can't stop.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's right. That's right. So, what kind of momentum? Where were you when you started, and how did you start getting your momentum to grow?
I started way back in, not way back, sorry. I started in June 2020. Yes, I was there on LinkedIn, but I was kind of a zombie there just for the heck of it being there. But the COVID 2020 is when the life changed of most people of our lives because we went out there and kind of curated content which resonates with the audience, gave value to people. And that's where the follower base happened because it's not about the followers, it's about the connections you made, it's about the relationships you build, and most importantly giving value there to people makes a huge difference because that's what people want to hear. What is it that I'm going to be getting from Punita? That's the key, right? Because that's what people want to know.
That's true. That's true. And you know who Punita is, who Hernan is, who James is. We're all a culmination of everything that we've experienced in life, right? What we listen to, who we watch on YouTube, and the books we read. If you were gonna give advice to a young Punita who's just getting started in this entrepreneurial space, what podcasts, books, speakers, influencers would you recommend to young entrepreneurs?
So I don't want to recommend anything right now, but I just want to tell them to tell themselves to kind of be fearless, be compassionate, be kind, because that can take you places. And most importantly, just be you. While you can follow hundreds of influencers, but until you're not yourself, that's what I was on LinkedIn. I was just me, being me. And that's what's brought me from whatever amount of followers to just building real connections.
What's the value in building a real connection versus having a figurative connection, a number connection?
Yeah. So what I normally do is when a connection normally connects with me, I kind of understand and read what they do. But kind of connect with them on a human value in terms of appreciating for what they do for their work, kind of making them feel special on why they should connect with me. Once you make your connection feel special, hence I always believe in sending personalized messages to go through their work and make them feel special about why they should connect with me.
Oh, I do that with every single. So I'm not good with that on any other platform except for Facebook. When I get a Facebook friend request, I do a personalized video, and I've been doing that since we started the podcast. And I think first of all, it grabs amazing engagement. People love and connect with that. But then the other thing is, I say your name. And I say, the date today, so it's authentic. I didn't pre-record it. It's not, something that everybody gets. It's unique to you and what it is that you do. And just an FYI, you can do that on LinkedIn too. LinkedIn allows video DMs. So
Yes.
remember, if Facebook if LinkedIn is 12 year is what LinkedIn will be in 12 years, then utilize some of the concepts that worked in Facebook 12 years ago and implement them here today. Use those same strategies. Hop on that DM, send a video message, and make yourself stand out and be unique.
Be unique, not those typical hello, how are you messages. That's kind of boring.
Yeah, and everybody knows that. And then you're wondering with AI nowadays, you're like, do you really know who I am? Did you really type in the name, or is it just an AI system putting that stuff together? It's just a bot, right? We don't want to know all that. Now, Punita, hey, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the show today. I know, what time is it over there? I didn't even ask you that.
6 a.m.
Oh, you're up early. You're probably making noise. People sleeping in the house. I'm so sorry. It's time to wake up anyways, ladies and gents. 6 o'clock in the morning. You should be up and rolling. Now, Punita, thank you a lot for coming on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time. Before we head out, one more time so our listening audience knows, can you tell them how to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn by the name Punita Parekh. It's all there on the screen.
Perfect. All right, ladies and gents, hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about what Punita's up to. Give her a shout out. Check out her LinkedIn. Check out her content that she's helping out. Any little bit of advice that can help you put your content out there that gets more attention, that'll drive more traffic, that'll help you increase your sales is always a plus. So thank you, Punita, again for joining the show. Quick reminder, ladies and gents, if you want to be on the podcast, I have an 8-week waiting list, or you can hop on businessbros.biz/last minute and you'll get a last minute email. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a week, depends on if we ever have cancellations. So make sure you hop on that list, businessbros.biz/last minute, and make sure you follow us on all our social media at Business Bros Pod. And by the way, I forgot to mention this, but we got a show that we're doing strictly for insurance people. If you're in the insurance space and you want to check that out, it's 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every day. Hopefully you guys check it out. Enjoy the rest of your, what's today, James? Are we on Wednesday? Are we on Thursday? We forgot. It is Thursday. SHIT, dude. So happy it's Thursday. Later, everybody. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@seeusfirst.com to schedule a free consultation, or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.